The hull of the violin Echo creaked like an old man settling into his favorite chair. Somewhere deep in the bowels of the ancient diplomatic vessel, Kalen Voss crouched with a hydrospanner in one hand and a grimy panel half-pried open in the other. The panel was supposed to regulate atmospheric moisture. Instead, it sounded like it was attempting to whistle a sad tune through dust-clogged vents. "Come on, sweetheart," he muttered to the panel. "Just a little more cooperation, and we can both pretend you're still useful." The panel responded by sparking. Kalen sat back, wiping his forehead with a sleeve that only made things dirtier. Around him, the dim corridor lights flickered with all the enthusiasm of a dying campfire. The violin Echo had once hosted high-level treaties and interstellar ballads sung by diplomats with 10 tongues. Now it was home to diplomatic outcasts, low-priority analysts and systems held together by stubbornness and luck, and one very quiet, very unsettling alien woman, Unit Lyra. Kalen had only heard her name once, passed along from a maintenance log he wasn't supposed to read. She wasn't listed in the official crew manifest, but she had an assigned sector, a living pod, and apparently a strong preference for isolation. He'd seen her exactly 6 times, always from the back. She stood like a statue, tall, poised, with unnaturally smooth posture and golden hair bound so tightly it looked like spun metal. But it was the ears that caught him off guard. Long, tapered like blades, rising from her head as if they were tuned to a frequency he'd never hear. He tried not to look, really, tried not to wonder, but the way she moved, silent, deliberate, drew attention like gravity. Kalen had even installed a reflective panel across from her workstation, for safety reasons. Just in case she needed help, that she never did was a technicality. His stomach grumbled, lunch hour, which meant a protein bar that tasted like caffeinated sand and another awkward walk through the C-deck corridor, past her station, past her silence, past the part of the ship that somehow felt colder than space. He walked slowly this time, deliberately, just in case. There she was, same as always, back turned, working at a console with her hands moving so precisely he was sure she could type out poetry with one and recalibrate targeting systems with the other. He didn't expect to say anything, certainly not out loud, but the corridor was so quiet, and she was just there. "Beautiful," he whispered. He wasn't even sure he said it until she paused, not just paused, froze. One hand hovering mid-keystroke, Kalen's brain sprinted. His mouth opened for damage control, but his tongue staged a mutiny. The alien woman slowly turned. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't fast. Just a gradual motion, as if the entire idea of facing him had to pass through some slow, ancient ritual. Her eyes were the color of a sunrise over a burning nebula. Not bright, not soft, just intense, curious. Kalen panicked. Talking about the panel. Yep, that one there, beautiful design, the interface. The interface was cracked. She blinked once. "You admire broken equipment." "Only the really high-end broken stuff." He tried to smile. It came out crooked. "Limited edition, collectible even." Her lips didn't move, but something in her expression shifted just slightly. Not quite amusement, but something adjacent. "You're Kalen Voss, maintenance technician, level 3 clearance. Formerly of orbital platform Orioles 5. You do your homework. I scan everything within a 5-meter radius. You breathe very loudly." He choked on a laugh. "That's fair. My lungs were designed for planets. You know, with actual air." She tilted her head. A few strands of gold hair slipped loose, and Kalen's heart, normally very committed to beating at a professional rhythm, stumbled a beat. "I apologize if I startled you," she said. "I wasn't expecting commentary." He raised both hands. "Honestly, I wasn't expecting it either. Sometimes my mouth bypasses the command center, like an emergency escape pod ejected for safety." Silence again. Then, barely perceptible, her eyes narrowed like she was trying to understand a joke told in a forgotten dialect. "What is it you find beautiful?" she asked. Kalen should have run, should have said the panel, the layout. the clean lines of the console, but instead he shrugged. You, from a respectful distance, which I am now exceeding probably. She stared for a long moment, then turned back to her work. Kaelin lingered. So, if you ever need help with those interfaces, I'm pretty great at making them worse before I make them better. Statistically, that aligns with your repair record. He grinned. I take that as a compliment. No, you don't. Fair enough. He stepped back, giving her space. Well, this was profoundly awkward. I'll go now. She didn't answer, but as he turned, he heard a quiet sound, barely audible beneath the hum of the ship. A soft, unexpected exhale. A laugh. He didn't dare look back. Not yet. But something had changed. Not in the ship, not in the corridor, in the silence. It wasn't quite as cold anymore. The next morning, Kaelin spent a full 7 minutes debating with himself in the mirror about whether to shave. He ultimately decided that space stubble gave him a rugged tech specialist vibe. Then he tripped over a loose power coil and cursed loudly enough to activate the room's privacy override. Somewhere in the distance, he imagined her ears twitching in judgment. Down in Subdeck 3, the ship hummed with the quiet despair of neglected systems. As usual, Kaelin set about pretending to be useful. He poked at an access panel that was already working fine and replaced a functioning conduit with one that was shinier, if not actually better. I see you've upgraded an operational system with an inefficient model, came the voice behind him. He turned slowly as if facing a supernova. Lyra stood with arms crossed, golden hair now tied higher, revealing the full curve of her long, elegant ears. Her expression was impassive, but the fact that she was talking to him, voluntarily, that was new. Upgraded is a strong word, Kaelin said. Let's go with aggressively modified. You are aware this adjustment will reduce energy efficiency by 12%. That's optimism. I was shooting for 15. Lyra blinked at him, then moved past to inspect the junction herself. She knelt, fingers dancing over the panel's edge with a delicacy Kaelin hadn't expected from someone who looked like she'd been born in a war chamber. Why are you here? He asked before he could stop himself. I mean, on this ship. You don't exactly blend in with the rest of us underachievers. Her fingers paused. I was reassigned temporarily. That's vague. Intentionally. The ancient art of none of your business. He nodded sagely. A classic among diplomats and angry ex-girlfriends. You believe I resemble an angry ex-girlfriend. No, you're way taller. And much more likely to kill me with a hairpin. For a second, something twitched at the corner of her mouth. It might have been a smile, or a glitch. Kaelin wasn't sure which made him more nervous. She rose, straightened her posture like a tower reassembling, and said, You asked yesterday why I was beautiful. I think I implied it more than asked. There was a whisper, it was subtle. You risked communication protocols for aesthetics. Well, when you say it like that, it sounds illegal. Her head tilted slightly. In my culture, outward admiration is discouraged unless sanctioned by formal bonding. Kaelin raised both brows. So, flirting is basically a contract. A preliminary one, yes. Signed, witnessed, and reviewed by an emotional clarity council. He burst out laughing, and I thought Terran dating apps were brutal. I failed to see the humor. That's okay, he said. I failed to understand quantum flux alignment on a good day. We all have our burdens. She glanced back at the panel, then at him. Your modifications are not efficient, but they are creative. I'll take that as a compliment. You shouldn't. He smiled anyway. The next few days developed an odd rhythm. He found reasons to be near her sector, systems to recalibrate, panels to realign, conduits to question. Lyra, for her part, began requesting diagnostics she could have easily run herself. Each visit grew a little less formal, a little more strange. At one point she asked, Is your shirt designed to be asymmetrical? He looked down. It was symmetrical until I crawled through a recycling chute. You chose to enter a waste processing system. I was rescuing a maintenance drone. It beeped at me like I'd insulted its grandmother. Her eyes narrowed thoughtfully. I believe I like the drone. Their interactions grew into a daily occurrence. Lyra even began showing him alien console systems, cryptic designs with curving inputs and glimmering scripts that pulsed faintly when touched. Kalen struggled with them, often managing to activate strange protocols, or, once, an ambient meditation program that filled the air with the sound of whales arguing underwater. "You must stop pressing glowing things without reading," she scolded. "That's like telling a moth not to love the moon," he replied, "or telling you not to scan everything within 5 meters. "Taché," she murmured. Then one cycle, just after their usual exchange about inefficient duct routing, she asked, "What are your thoughts on interspecies recreational bonding?" He stared. "I have several. Most of them involve questions about which species, how many tentacles are involved, and whether this is a quiz." "It's hypothetical." "Well, in that case, bonding's great, recreation's even better, interspecies," he shrugged. "Honestly, if you can laugh with someone and not die from their breath spores, you're already ahead of the game." "I do not emit spores." "Then I'm halfway in love." That almost smile came back. "You exaggerate." He grinned. "Constantly." They were interrupted by a sudden ping from the comm system. Lyra stiffened. Her fingers flew over her console, eyes scanning data with focused intensity. "What is it?" Kalen asked, stepping beside her. "An automated distress signal," she said. "Old encryption. It matches a diplomatic library platform that went dark 3 cycles ago. It shouldn't be transmitting." "Ghost signal." "Possibly, or worse, bait." She turned to him. "I need a partner to investigate. I am requesting you." Kalen blinked. "Me, I trip over my own boots." "You're adaptable, irritating, but resourceful, and I trust your ability to panic in creative ways." "Well, when you put it that way." She nodded. "We leave in 1 hour." As she walked off, Kalen called after her, "Hey, is this formal bonding now?" She didn't turn around, but he swore he heard a laugh. Kalen had never been in a shuttle this clean. No rattling panels. No buzzing wires taped down with hope and lies. Just smooth systems, pristine upholstery, and a silence that felt ominous. Probably because the only other person on board was Lyra, who piloted like she'd been born inside a flight manual and didn't believe in small talk. "So," he began, adjusting the straps on his harness as the shuttle glided from the docking bay, "do we have snacks, or do elite recon missions run on sheer dignity?" Lyra didn't turn her head. "There are nutrient tabs in the side panel." He opened it. "You mean these? These aren't snacks. These are sadness compressed into edible form. They meet all biological requirements for your species. They also taste like compressed boot." She glanced sideways. "I assume you've eaten a boot." "Only emotionally." Their shuttle cut through space like a blade, slicing through a field of debris orbiting the diplomatic library station, known as Resonant Vault Theta. The platform, once used to archive ancient treaties and host cultural exchange events, had been offline for months. No distress, no reports, just dead silence. Now suddenly a signal. Kalen leaned closer to the console. "Is it me, or does that station look extra creepy today?" Lyra zoomed the feed. "Power is minimal. Life support is partially functioning, but systems show a new AI directive activated 3 days ago." "New directive?" "Unknown. The AI core shouldn't be operational at all. This signal was meant to stay buried." "That's comforting." "It wasn't meant to be." They docked manually, because of course the automatic port wouldn't respond. Kalen grumbled the entire time as he pulled on his pressure vest and adjusted his toolkit. Lyra, elegant as ever, moved with calm efficiency. "Stick close to me," she said. "The AI could interpret new life signs as a threat." Comforting strikes again. Inside, the vault was a graveyard of peace treaties and failed negotiations. Holographic banners hung lifeless in the stale air. The once warm lighting had been replaced by the cold glow of emergency systems, flickering like forgotten candles. As they stepped through the corridor, Lyra held up a scanner. Multiple heat signatures, faint, not human. Hostile. She hesitated, unclear. He pulled out a pulse emitter and checked its charge. I am not trained for anything unclear. I'm barely trained for toast. They reached the AI core chamber, a vast dome of glowing circuits and suspended data prisms. At its center floated the core node, softly pulsing. A voice echoed. Organic presence detected. Identity mismatch. Defensive posture authorized. Whoa, whoa, Kalen raised his hands. Can we just say hi and not get vaporized today? Lyra stepped forward. I am Unit Lyra 17, Diplomatic Protocol Lineage. Core access requested. The node's glow intensified. Recognition partial. Emotional deviation detected. Status compromised. Kalen looked at her. Did it just call you emotionally compromised? I may have failed a baseline evaluation recently. That's so charming I could scream. Lyra's fingers flew over the terminal. The AI is running on an old security doctrine, pre-reform. It thinks any emotional variance equals risk. So basically, you're too human for it to trust. It would appear so. The voice boomed again. Organic male, unknown classification, purpose, interrogation. Interrogation, Kalen squeaked. I left my bravery back on the ship. The floor under him lit up and he was suddenly surrounded by a transparent containment field. He poked it. It hummed. Great, I'm in an intergalactic hamster ball. Lyra stepped between him and the AI core. You will not harm him. Emotion detected, deviation escalating, breach imminent. I'm not even doing anything, Kalen shouted. She's the one emoting all over the place. Lyra looked over her shoulder. You're not helping. I never am. She turned back to the core and spoke in a language Kalen didn't recognize, rapid, precise, like slicing data with a scalpel. The AI paused. The lights dimmed slightly. Override code accepted, it said. Directive suspended. The field vanished. Kalen fell forward with a yelp and caught himself on the edge of a console. You good? He asked, brushing himself off. Lyra didn't answer. She was swaying slightly, her skin paler than usual. Lyra. She sank to one knee. Kalen caught her. You burned your credentials, he said quietly. Didn't you? I used ambassadorial overrides. Codes tied to my family's diplomatic corps. They'll be alerted. They'll know I disobeyed. They'll come for you. She nodded once, then looked up at him. But I protected you. He held her for a moment, then said, You realize that's the most romantic thing anyone's ever done for me. She blinked. I disarmed an ancient AI and broke galactic law. Exactly beats flowers. She almost smiled. They left the vault just as auxiliary systems began to fail. The AI granted them safe passage but warned that its power cycle would collapse in 20 hours. Kalen suggested sending a message back to command. Lyra disagreed. No one must know we were here, she said. Yet. Right. Secret dates with rogue AIs. Totally normal. Back aboard the shuttle, Kalen finally slumped into his chair and sighed. Next time you want to go somewhere, he muttered, how about a spa planet? Lyra, pale and tired, whispered, You wouldn't enjoy it. Why not? They don't serve compressed boot. He snorted, then grinned. You're learning. The shuttle hummed with a nervous energy, or maybe that was just Kalen. He sat sideways in his chair, chewing on the corner of a ration packet that claimed to be beef-flavored, though it had all the personality of damp cardboard. Lyra sat across from him, arms folded, gaze fixed out the port window at the slow-moving stars. Neither of them had spoken since departure. Okay, Kalen finally said, voice muffled by artificial protein. Tell me we didn't just commit an elegant, protocol-shattering galactic crime. We didn't just commit it, Lyra replied without looking at him. We danced with it, gave it a gift basket, called it by its full legal name. Right, because what's a little war crime between friends? He sighed. Think we'll be court-martialed, or just vaporized? Most likely reassignment, she said, or emotional recalibration. See, when you say emotional recalibration, I hear brain soup. She didn't argue. They docked back on the Violin Echo in silence, but the air around them felt thick, like the ship already knew something had changed. Kalen kept glancing sideways at her as they walked. Lyra's posture remained composed, but her fingers twitched every so often, like static pulling at invisible threads. Her usual quiet had a tension to it now, a flickering weight behind the stillness. "Command flagged our departure," she said quietly as they passed through the security checkpoint. "They'll want a report." Kalen groaned. "Can I tell them I got lost in a historical corridor and emotionally bonded with a hostile AI while you heroically saved me using codes you technically didn't have?" "No." "Can I lie better?" "No." "Well then, I'm out of ideas." He paused. "We're screwed, aren't we?" She didn't answer, but she didn't deny it either. Over the next 2 days, things got weird. First, Lyra's clearance was temporarily suspended, not revoked, not reprimanded, just quietly placed on review. Second, a new face appeared on the Echo. Administrator Velen, a Terran with perfect teeth, a voice like a sharpened contract, and the uncanny ability to appear in places moments before he was expected. "Ah, Voss," Velen said the first time they crossed paths, placing a friendly hand on Kalen's shoulder with all the warmth of a cold scalpel. "I hear you've been invaluable lately. Inspiring work, especially in your extracurricular efforts." Kalen blinked. "I fix panels." "Do you? Is that what we're calling it?" He smiled. "I look forward to your formal report." After Velen vanished around the corner, Kalen turned to Lyra, who had been observing silently. "He knows everything, doesn't he?" "He suspects," she said, "and suspicion is the first step toward recalibration." Again with the soup. That night Kalen found himself unable to sleep. His room felt too quiet, his thoughts too loud. He got up, pulled on a jacket, and wandered toward the system's deck, the one closest to Lyra's quarters. Totally coincidence. Absolutely unintentional. He didn't expect to find her sitting cross-legged in the auxiliary interface chamber, a dozen holographic data spheres rotating slowly around her. Her eyes were closed, her ears twitched slightly with each sphere's turn. "Whoa," he whispered. "Are you communing with the data spirits?" She opened one eye, meditating. Is that what it's called, when you're levitating emotional damage in 3D? She smiled faintly. "This platform holds archived emotional scans, ambassadorial experiences, first contact narratives, diplomatic betrayals. I'm trying to understand what went wrong." "With the mission?" "With me." Kalen sat beside her, legs stretched out, arms behind his head. "You mean that you started feeling things?" "I was not designed for deviation. My genes were edited for neutrality, objectivity, harmony." "Well, harmony's overrated," he said. "You ever heard a Terran barbershop quartet try Klingon opera?" She looked at him. "That sounds horrifying." "Oh, it is." He chuckled. "But you can't look away. It's alive, messy, loud, a disaster, and sometimes it's exactly what you need." Silence again. The spheres continued to rotate, casting strange lights on the walls. "I like saving you," she admitted softly. He glanced sideways. "I like being saved, especially the part where you didn't let an ancient AI dissect my lungs." Her tone turned dry. "You're very attached to those lungs." "They help me scream when things explode, so yes." The next morning, everything fell apart. Administrator Velen called them both to the central command chamber. Neutral lighting, no seats, too many cameras. He smiled politely. Lyra stood tall, hands behind her back. Kalen looked like he'd accidentally wandered into a wedding rehearsal for people he didn't like. "You violated interstellar monitoring protocols," Velen said, pacing slowly. "Access forbidden sectors, engaged with unauthorized AI, used forbidden clearance codes." "I also fell into a wall," Kalen offered. "Not sure if that helps." Velen ignored him. Under normal circumstances, this would result in re-education and demotion. "But Lyra, you are not normal circumstances, are you?" She said nothing. "You're a living legacy, daughter of ambassadorial pair 17C. Genetically regulated for neutrality, diplomatic royalty." He smiled. "And now, You show signs of instability. I prefer humanity, she said quietly. That's not what you were made for. Kalen stepped forward. Maybe not, but it's what she chose. Which, in case you've forgotten, is kind of the whole point of not being a toaster. Velen's eyes narrowed. You'll be reassigned Technician Voss, far from this sector. No, Lyra said. Velen turned. Excuse me. I'm leaving, she said. On my terms. I've revoked my claim to the legacy program. I've deleted my ambassadorial line signature. Velen's composure slipped for just a second. That's irreversible. Yes, she said, it is. He looked between them. You'll regret this. Lyra smiled, calm. Sure, maybe, but it will be my regret. As they walked away, Kalen asked, so, no more legacy powers, no more shiny diplomatic overrides? No, she said. Just me now. Well, damn, he said. Guess I'll have to like you for your personality. You always did. He stopped walking. Wait, was that a joke from you? She kept walking. Catch up before I reconsider. He did. 2 weeks after the hearing, Kalen's quarters were cleaner than they'd ever been. Which, considering his baseline, still left them somewhere between semi-chaotic starport lounge and museum dedicated to laundry avoidance. The hydrospanner lay untouched on the desk. The auxiliary consoles blinked for attention, ignored. And the empty second cup of tea across from him didn't refill itself, no matter how long he stared at it. She was gone, just like that. One moment they were walking out of Velen's chamber like rebels with sarcastic cause, and the next, she'd packed up her few belongings, mostly data chips and an illegal Terran poetry archive, and left on a transport shuttle without even a dramatic farewell. I'll return, she'd said, calm, quiet like her, when I'm no longer property of expectation. Kalen hadn't argued, mostly because he didn't know how. Partially because if he had, he probably would have made it worse by calling her emotionally heroic, and she'd have slapped him with a protocol citation out of nostalgia. Now he waited. The Echo moved on, with or without her. Maintenance cycles rotated. Administrator Velen left mysteriously, his reassignment classified. Rumor had it he'd been sent to a diplomatic outpost on a planet entirely covered in wet moss. Kalen chose to believe it. He resumed his rounds, fixed real systems this time, even cleaned the recyclers voluntarily, which made several officers question whether he was sick or undergoing spiritual awakening. Some nights he'd walk past her old station, still silent, still cold. The reflective panel remained, though, a reminder, a habit he couldn't let go of. Then one cycle, 82 days after she left, the console near his bed chirped. Not a standard chirp, not a system alert, a voice-encoded, encrypted transmission, 4 words, I fixed the coupler. He sat up so fast he slammed his knee on the corner of his desk, cursed creatively, and nearly knocked over the teacup he'd kept in the same place every day, just in case. The message didn't have coordinates, didn't need them, he knew. The port hangar bay doors opened to a figure stepping lightly onto the platform. Same posture, same stride. But something different in the way she held herself, not with diplomat's tension but quiet certainty. Lyra wore no insignia now, no designation, just a long, utilitarian coat over travel gear and a satchel slung over one shoulder. She looked at him, and for the first time she wasn't looking through him. I meant to say goodbye, she said. I just didn't know how. I meant to say don't go, he replied. I just didn't want to make you stay. They stood like that for a long time. Finally, she walked forward, stopping only when she stood close enough for him to see the small silver ring looped around the end of one ear, a Terran token of freedom, sometimes used by ex-diplomats as a symbol of renunciation. You still breathe loudly, she murmured. You still judge silently, he replied. We're a match made in malfunction. She smiled. No hesitation this time, no programming, just her. I've been traveling, she said. Seeing the galaxy for the first time without filters, without requirements. It's chaotic, overstimulating, terrifying. And I love it. He took her bag wordlessly, and they walked together through the hallway. "So," he said, "you still emotionally compromised?" "Always. Recalibration never took. I burned the manual." "I approve." They paused at the old junction, the one with the cracked panel he'd pretended to repair all those cycles ago. She traced a finger along its edge. "You never fixed this." "I was hoping you would." She removed a new coupler from her bag and snapped it into place with graceful precision. A soft blue light pulsed. He nodded, impressed. "I guess this means you're officially back." "No," she said, "it means I chose to return." Later that evening, as they sat across from each other over 2 steaming cups of actual, brewed tea, not the replicated mud Kalen had suffered for months, she looked out the viewport. "What now?" she asked. "Well," he said, "I thought we'd start with finishing that emotional bonding protocol you mentioned. Maybe skip the witnesses, unless you count the security droid." "The droid is biased." "Only toward you. I caught it humming when you were gone." She looked at him, long, unbroken. "I'm not who I was," she said. "Good," he replied, "because who you were